Good morning, everyone. Do you just feel full of joy when you come in here on a day like this and you see all these friends and all this love around? Do you? Me too. I like it. Okay, this morning, or last night, I'll back up, yesterday afternoon actually, we had to do a little skating. We had a cancellation on our speaker for today. Fortunately, I had visited with Whitney last week about coming in and telling us about our outreach program here at the church. And so Whitney and I had a quick conversation, and we tap danced a little bit, and we're so thankful to have Julia along with her. Julia Wood is on the team as well, and we're so thankful to have Whitney, really thankful to have Whitney and Julia this morning because we were skating. So relax and enjoy. Think about the questions you want to ask of where our outreach dollars go. This church from the very beginning has been a church that has done a lot of outreach. And I'm not only talking about money, but I'm talking about service. So that's been with the birth of this church from the beginning, and we continue it as it is today. And we're going to ask Whitney to lead us in that. Whitney?
Hi. It's good to be with y'all. You know, some of you might know, is it loud? Hank's working with us. Is that a little better? Sorry, I just get very excited when I'm in a room and I forget that there's a microphone attached to me and that we can maybe dial it down. So I was supposed to be with you in person last week and wasn't able to because I was with Carlos, my fiance, at the Heartland Emmys, which I'll say as many times as I get to because it sounds very fun and very fancy. We had a great time, missed being with you, and clearly the divine was at work and said that I just need to get to talk to the challengers in person sooner than September, which was the date that I'd originally discussed with Kathy. So I'm excited to be here talking about outreach here at Harvard Avenue, a subject that I acknowledge wholeheartedly that having only been here for 6 months, many of the people in this room, if not most, could probably school me in Harvard Avenue Christian Church's relationship with outreach and what we do. And so this is a sharing about what our team has been working on, revisiting our value of compassionate generosity and how that factors in to the hopes and goals and vision that we have for outreach going forward, not only with the ways that dollars are allocated, as Kathy said, but also with the serving opportunities that we're putting before folks. So I'm excited to share that with you, and you get some bonus content material that's related to that today that has to do with our new website that is launching in just a couple of weeks, and the ways that that's going to help with volunteering and serving being more transparent and easily accessible to us, as well as a new app that we're going to have for the entire church that does that. So there's your quick sneak peek overview. Let's get into it. You may have heard that we have 5 values here at Harvard Avenue Christian Church that ground and guide us as a church that's seeking to live out our mission to live and love like Jesus. I'm sure, because you have heard that many times, I could have given you a pop quiz this morning on what those 5 values are, but I have put them there for your viewing pleasure, just in case. Radical hospitality, authentic community, theological humility, active transformation, and compassionate generosity. That compassionate generosity is the piece that I want to begin us talking about a little bit today. When we talk about compassionate generosity here at Harvard Avenue, we talk about what it means for us to understand that God has been generous with us. And so we respond with the generosity of spirit by serving others and sharing our resources both close to home and around the world. So that is a value that this congregation has held from its beginnings. That value having language that we put around it of being able to call it compassionate generosity, while that's one of those fun buzzword value things that we've really started to talk about and distill, to define, and try to live out in the last couple of years, it's been at the heart of who this congregation is for a long time. And part of it being at the heart of who this congregation has been for a long time is that this outreach effort is something that happens within the life of our community at a grassroots level in the ways that we have Sunday school classes that are volunteering at John 3:16, who are working with McClure Elementary, who are helping make sure that those service opportunities outside of these walls are something that we are attentive to and conscious of, continue to happen, in addition to making sure that we take seriously that commitment in how we allocate and determine our budget each year as a congregation. Of the budget that we have here at Harvard Avenue Christian Church, our general operating fund, the money that turns the lights on, that helps us make sure that we're able to have tremendous worship, the money that makes sure that we have opportunities to get together here, we also designate $100,000 in our 2023 budget for outreach efforts. That is $100,000 that is going to serve people who are beyond our immediate congregation. I think that that's one of the most exciting things I learned about Harvard Avenue when I began the search process here, of knowing that that commitment that we are making to outreach is that tremendous. And because of that tremendous monetary commitment to outreach, it really gives us firm, sturdy foundation to stand on when we begin to talk about compassionate generosity and what that looks like. You may be wondering, $100,000 is a lot of money. Who decides where that $100,000 goes? You may be thinking that you haven't seen a poll in your church newsletter recently saying, hey, give us a thumbs up if you'd like for this $10,000 to go here. That's because that's not exactly the way it works. What we have here at Harvard Avenue Christian Church is our outreach team, a team that have been put in place to represent our congregation, who help make those decisions. The outreach team members, you can see, are beautifully displayed here. We have our chair, David Brock, who was really hoping to join you today, but David had some dental work on Friday, didn't realize that I was going to ask him for a last-minute speaking engagement on Sunday. So I suppose I will forgive him for doing what he needed to do. But we also have Sean Lovejoy, who's on that team with us, Carrie Kitterman, who's in here with us right now. Hi, Carrie. Mark Hames, also here with us in the Challengers. Danny Forthman is a member of that team, and Julia Wood is also a member of our outreach team, who was willing to take a last-minute speaking engagement. I think because she comes from the line of thinking that I do, which is, give me a microphone and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to invite Julia to come and share a little bit about what that outreach team serving experience is like, what she enjoys about serving with the outreach team, and some of the things that she's excited about as part of the outreach team. And then we'll get into some of the nuts and bolts of looking at where allocations have been made for 2023 and talking about those exciting things on the horizon. So give it up for Julia.
Good morning. I can talk to about anything to anybody most of the time. This is a little nerve-wracking for me, but first of all, I want to say that the Outreach Committee has been amazing for me personally. Had been coming to the church, sitting with my uncle for a few years, and that's kind of what I did at the church. Didn't go to Sunday school, didn't get really involved, and was asked to be on this committee, and was very touched and humbled that they thought I could come to this committee and add to it. It has been so educational, for one thing, to look at all the opportunities that we have here to give to others. And there's organizations that they would list, and I would go, well, where's that? And what's that? And what do they do? So it's been very educational for me. I'm compassionate about giving to others. I am so touched by what we do and talk about and how we serve the community. Whether it's school, McClure, that has so many needs. As an educator for 43 years, I know the needs of these schools. I know the needs of these children. And so as we prepare to give and to look at what we can do for this fall for a school that does not have the resources that so many schools do, that touches me. The other thing I'm excited about is just the idea of volunteerism. As we meet once a month and we talk about where our monies are going to go and what we want to do, I'm always thoughtful about how do we get more people involved? How do we get more people to say, yes, I'll serve food, or I'll bring shoes? Speaking of shoes, did you all hear how many shoes the kids brought last week? I'm so excited about that and so touched, and the kids were so excited. So whether we're doing something like that, there's so many places for everybody to do something. It doesn't have to be on a serving line. It could be, writing notes to somebody, maybe thank you notes to people that have helped. It could be writing notes to the school to find out, to kids at the school even. Anything that we can do to do that. So I'm very excited. I'm very humbled to be part of a small group of people, really, that make some big decisions about what happens at this church. I have other passions. One is the Eden Village, because part of our ability to get a sponsorship for one of the houses was because of my Uncle Roy. And his son Brad's my cousin, so I'm trying to help him as much as I can. He hated that he couldn't be here today, but he's really looking forward to next month when he can be in front of you. He's passionate, as you can probably imagine. Lots of great things have happened for that. So whether it's Eden Village or a school or Habitat for Humanity or whatever we're doing, it is so exciting for me to watch what we do here at Harvard Avenue and to be involved. That was something I needed to do, and so excited to be doing that. So thank you.
Julia, and when we do questions in just a little bit, if you have any questions for Julia about that service as a team member or anything like that, or the scope of what we do, I bet she'd be willing to turn that microphone on again. So thank you, Julia. So in thinking about the outreach team and the work that they do together, as I mentioned, they meet each month and we look over the fanciest spreadsheet I've ever seen in my entire life. I know that you can't read all of those numbers and names that are up there. If at any point in time you think to yourself, I would really love to see a historical overview of what the last 5 years of outreach giving looks like at Harvard Avenue, where can I find that? Guess what? If you email me, I'll give it to you. I will, because we really believe in being transparent with where these outreach dollars go, because we as a team understand that these are not our dollars. They're not even our dollars as a congregation. These are God's dollars that are doing work in the community, doing work in the world. So I want to call your attention to a few of the things you might see. So one, you might be looking at that 2023 column and you're saying, I can't read what the numbers say, but I do see all the blanks. What's up, outreach team? We have some allocations that get made at certain traditional times throughout the year, and many of those actually fall in the last half of the year. So some of our dollars haven't been designated yet because it's not the time that those organizations are anticipating seeing those dollars from us. So that's a little bit of the emptiness on the 2023 column. You might also see some years where an organization has some dollars that are given to it, and then a year where that rolls off. Some examples of those for us that we might look at on this one are Just Hope. That has been each year an $8,500 allocation from us here. That is a ministry effort in Central America that we've partnered with for a good long while. But this year, Just Hope made the decision that the most faithful outreach of their ministry would be for them to conclude ministry in the format that they've been doing it. And so that $8,500 allocation to Just Hope is not an allocation we'll be making this year. There are a couple of places where we had some dollar amounts that the organizations that we had been contributing to on this side of COVID, of having figured out what it means for them to have their legs underneath them again, to see how they are able to continue serving in the community, might need to back away from serving in the communities that they serve, or might need to take some time to regroup, process, and redefine who they are. That left us with a lot of opportunity in our budget for looking at some new opportunities for how we're partnering and who we're partnering with, and maybe amplifying some of those efforts in our partnership. An example of that you'll see is International Love Ministries. I'm going to pop to my next slide. International Love Ministries, who prior to 2023, we had given a $1,000 allocation from our budget to help them with the work that they do, which I know that you all have had opportunity to hear about, and we even have Say with us in the back. Hi, Say. International Love Ministries began a tutoring program over at Yale Avenue Christian Church that's for local children who are a part of our refugee community here, and that tutoring program moved this year here to Harvard Avenue. A quick show of hands, how many of you have been volunteering with that ministry during last school year? I know we've got some folks among us who are in this group, and some of them maybe not with us today, but we've had an awesome group of core volunteers there. And in our desire to really want to commit to International Love Ministries, and with the opportunities we had with some of the ways that dollars were able to be reallocated, we made a gift of $10,000 from our 2023 budget. So that was 10 times more than we had been able to give in years prior. Another exciting allocation that we got to make was what Julia mentioned about Eden Village. Eden Village is a new community that is the ground has broken. They're making things happen over there. Dirt is moving. That house that's in our parking lot, I don't know which direction to point. I feel like I told y'all last time I was in here, cardinal direction's not my thing. I don't know where we are in this building right now. But you know that there's a yellow house on this campus. Eventually, that yellow house is going, thank you, Linda's like, this way, Whitney. My goodness. You're right, because sanctuary is over there. We got it. We did it. Eventually, that yellow house is going to join 62 other houses of a variety of beautiful colors, I am sure, and that is going to provide housing that it can be semi-permanent or permanent for homeless residents of Tulsa. And we're really excited about that $25,000 that we were able to give, because our $25,000 sponsored one home out of that outreach budget that was then matched by Roy Johnson, as Julia mentioned, as part of his memoriam. And Roy Johnson allowed us to have a second home, and that second home, that $25,000 was matched by a partner organization here in Tulsa. So our $25,000 grew into $75,000, which I've heard is what you want your investments to do. So we're feeling pretty good about it. One of the really exciting things about having an outreach team is that it is a group of minds and hearts that get together, bringing their skills, expertise, and passion for the world. It's people who are able to help us sit and think about really big decisions, like that decision when it came to talking about Eden Village, and understanding, because this is math even I can do, $25,000 is 25% of a $100,000 budget. And that's a big decision to make when you're thinking about the dollars you're allocating, the change that you want to be making in your community, and the ways that we want to be committing to being a force for change in this world because of the ways that we've been Jesus' hands and feet, the ways that we've lived and loved like Jesus. And so we had that conversation, is $25,000 for one organization going to be an allocation that we feel is responsible in the scope of this budget? That's maybe a question that some folks in our congregation have had. In fact, I know it is. Why? Because some of the folks in our congregation who have that question sat on the outreach team. That's the perk of a team. Because that conversation let us talk about, well, what other allocations could we be making that are going to be an investment that grows this quickly and this exponentially? What other allocations would we be making with that $25,000 that don't turn into a $75,000 allocation overnight? And so that conversation, getting to see the tremendous work that Brad has done in partnering with Eden Village, where it began in Springfield, Missouri, of being able to have access to their information that I'm happy to share, not nearly as thoroughly as Brad will be able to share with you when he's able to join you, but being able to see those numbers and see how that change could be made real and palpable let us know that this was one thing that we really wanted to do this year. And so that's a little bit of the insight to how those conversations happen on the outreach team. Yes, Julia.
Always. You know, right there is an opportunity when you think about, again, volunteerism. Once those homes are built and once that organization is going on, that is a huge opportunity for us. And the sponsorships for those houses also says to us as a church, these are the 2 houses we're sponsoring. What can we do to help the people that are in those 2 houses? So it might be food, it might be going and sitting on their front porch, and as you know, they all have a front porch for that reason. So you can go and sit. It might be taking them somewhere. It might be going in and teaching them how to cook a breakfast. I mean, it could be so many opportunities. And I've just got to share a quick story. So I go over, does anybody know about Street Cats? It's over off of Sheridan. I had gone in there the week before to get something and had left one of the items I bought. And so I walked in there the other day and to pick up this item. Here's this young man sitting there crying over this towel with this little bitty kitten. And I mean, 2-day-old kitten. And he's in tears, and the people there at Street Cat were just phenomenal with him. The 2 volunteers that day just happened to have a heart that was this big, you know. They mostly all do anyway. And so they're calling, they're trying to figure out, the man there has offered money, I've offered money to this young man. Here, I'll go and buy all the food for the cat if you'll bottle feed, you know. We spend an hour on the phone. This little man is crying. I say man, little man, he's probably about 30. And I said, why can't you take the kitten if we get you all the stuff? He goes, I'm homeless. And I said, well, where do you live? And he goes, tell me about the bridge he lives under. And he had heard this kitten in a dumpster. And he went in and got it. And he was so loving. And so there, right there was my opportunity to say, I have a place for you. And once we did this done, so we found someone to take the kitten. I went and bought food, and he was just, I handed him Brad's telephone number and said, I mean, he's been homeless for 5 years here in Tulsa, which I don't know if you know, you have to have 2, well, there's a lot of requirements, but one of them, you have to be homeless in Tulsa for over a year before you're considered. So just right there was an opportunity to touch somebody and say, I've got a place for you. So
Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you for sharing that story. Yes, Kathy.
I think the cost basis for these individual homes is $50,000. So that kind of tells you a little bit about the money. I can't hear you. The cost for a tiny home is $50,000.
Yes.
So that gives you an idea kind of the finances.
Yes. It's in Northwest Tulsa. I can new Tulsan, but I'm happy to show you. If you actually type into Google Maps right now, if you typed in Eden Village, it pops up for you. And part of the choosing of a location for where it would be is, one, they wanted to be able to have enough space for creating Eden Village to be everything that it needs to be in order to successfully serve and lift up the particular segment of the unhoused population that Eden Village is for. And so when I say that, when we think about the homeless population, keeping it specific to Tulsa, our 2023 point in time count, that's something that most major cities and some smaller cities do each year, where they have a 24-hour window where they send teams out onto the streets to find folks who seem to be making their home on the street. And for those folks that are making their home on the street, they ask them if they can do a questionnaire with them to let them know how long have they been living on the street. How would they consider themselves? Do they consider themselves chronically homeless, meaning that they've been without a house the majority of the last year? Are they in a temporary homelessness situation? Are they terminally homeless? Are they someone who's lived on the street for 3 or more years? And part of the point in time count that's helpful is it lets us see what homelessness looks like in our community. And so what we know here in Tulsa, without getting into all of the nuts and bolts of that is there are a variety of factors that contribute to someone's homelessness. Not every single person who is homeless has an opportunity to work and move their way out of homelessness, to be lifted up out of homelessness with the exact same safety net, with the exact same resources. There are different things that go on in that process. And so Eden Village, I know that when you hear a number like here in Tulsa, our last point in time count was a little over 1,000 people who are currently experiencing homelessness. And so then you hear, so we're building 63 houses. What is that doing? That feels like maybe that's not addressing the need. The great news is this is one of several solutions that are needed, and this is one that we are actively making progress and having happen. Because for those 63 folks who will be able to call Eden Village home, those are people who, similar to the scenario that Julia just described, those are single individuals who find themselves unhoused. That criteria of being a single individual is something that helps us find certain cofactors that will make this a successful model for them. This model would not be as successful for families who might be unhoused because the myriad of issues at play for those families is tremendous, far more so than maybe for a single individual. There are different factors of moms who are maybe trying to stay in a particular geography because that's where their kids are in school, and school has been the only constant thing in their child's life in a housing market where prices continue to inflate. And so they've been priced out of the neighborhood where their child maybe started kindergarten, but they're really hoping that that child gets to continue having the stability of the school that they're in, and so they don't want to risk moving away from an area that's difficult for them to stay in. But for single individuals who are going to be a part of Eden Village, who will be making a contribution to their rent monthly, by the way, there's a $350 contribution that they make each month. That's because these are individuals who most likely have some disability assistance that's afforded to them or potential to work if they are offered the appropriate wraparound services to make things possible for them. So wraparound services, for those who are like, I feel like she is just speaking jargon at me right now. Wraparound services are anything from being able to have access to clothing that's appropriate for job interviews or job settings, to having access to a social worker who can help you work on different things that might make the workplace a difficult place for you to be in. Maybe that's anger management issues, maybe that's PTSD that you're struggling with as a veteran or someone who's lived through tremendous life circumstances. Maybe there are certain qualifications that you didn't even realize you had for seeking out disability because maybe you never had the advantage of having appropriate testing done to let you know that there might be mental disability benefits that are there for you in addition to physical ones. So Eden Village is doing all of that, and so that was a very long way to say they wanted to make sure they were off of a bus line and that they had the appropriate amount of acreage to put them in a place in the community that, one, felt familiar to the folks that they are going to be asking to be a part of this community with them, and then also would make it easy for residents to move from that area into other places without having reliable personal transportation. So, good question about where it is. Any other questions? Just about funding and those things in general. Linda?
How do they pay for the electricity?
Everything is included. So that $350 is an all-inclusive rate for what they do. That's a great question, Linda. Yeah. Any other questions?
It's my understanding those services are on site too.
Yes, they will be on site at the community center there, which is part of wanting to have the footprint that they have. They also want Eden Village itself, because a big part of this model is helping create community for folks who have been alienated, isolated, or ostracized from other forms of community in their lives. That's part of, Julia mentioned that there's a front porch on every house. That's to help encourage talking with your neighbors. There are also no cars allowed inside of the village itself. There is a parking lot there at the community center for folks who might have a car, but it's supposed to be a walkable neighborhood. And in many ways, the rules that they have at Eden Village, they serve sort of like the rules for, how many of us have an HOA? Love them or hate them. They help keep things looking nice. So So that's a little bit of what goes on with the ways that they're creating that community. Is they want that community to be a place that feels loving, community-focused, and oriented while helping folks get back on their feet. Any other questions about Eden Village or any of the other pieces in just allocation of funds? Janet? So there's a lot of community funding work that's going on. Partner organizations, nonprofits that they're coming alongside and working on securing funding. We even have some folks in this room who are helping facilitate some of those conversations. So a lot of the work that Brad's doing right now as the executive director and founder is setting up those partnerships. Because as Julia mentioned, some of those will be volunteer focused, but in the overarching plan, there is a plan for actual staff who are a part of Eden Village and will be paid and on their payroll. And so that comes from, there's a plan for a grocery store on site where folks will be able to go and shop, not only the folks who live there, but long term, maybe that's an opportunity for us to go and give back in our community in a way. So.
And the Helmrich Foundation, I don't know if y'all know this, Helmrich Foundation just said that they would match $1 million. And what they'll do is the first thing that will be on site probably is the community center. Yeah, and the community center will then house the social workers, the mental health people, so that as they start interviewing and getting people to come in, they'll go there and those people will immediately embrace them and say, what do you need, what can we do for you? So that will probably cover that.
And be a great opportunity for partnerships like with TU and thinking about their social work department there, and that being an opportunity for interns to show up and show out and get some of the skills and training that they need. So all sorts of ways for that networking to happen, which is really awesome. Yes? That's a great question. So there's not a time limit for the folks who will be living at Eden Village. And that goes back a little bit to what I said about different solutions for different portions of an unhoused population, is that for some of the people who go to live at Eden Village, this will be a stepping stone. This will be a stepping stone into getting into a rhythm for life as they would like to have it. And that means an opportunity to step into housing that they can pay for outside of Eden Village, an opportunity to have a life that feels steady, a job that's sustainable. There will also be other folks who are there at Eden Village that this is a safe haven and a place where they get to live life with dignity. That they get to make the contribution that they can in order to be a part of that community, that they have accountability systems and networks in place that are continuing to support and uplift them and journey alongside them. And it might be a reach for them because of all sorts of myriads of things to imagine that they might be able to afford housing, that they might be able to support and sustain themselves outside of Eden Village. And so Eden Village doesn't want to put that timeline or time frame on them in a way that other organizations do for segments of the population where that feasibility factor is a lot different. One of those, for example, is Family Promise, who we've worked with here at Harvard Avenue and used to have very deep impact with them. Family Promise works with homeless families to help them find stable housing again. And so Family Promise, in their former model that some of you might be familiar with and even volunteered with here at Harvard Avenue, they would rotate every week or two to a different congregation, and that congregation would be their host congregation. So they would serve them meals, they would have access to showers, this would be sort of the landing place for them. And then they would move to a new congregation, rinse and repeat. Well, during COVID, when we really, especially in those early stages, really didn't know what the communicable aspect of disease transmission was and what all of that was going to mean for people, Family Promise needed to figure out something quick to help create some stability for those families and to up their safety game. Unfortunately, they were gifted a building. A building where those families get to live and cycle through the program. The average length of stay within the house itself varies family to family, but is only a couple of months. And the average length of being a part of the Family Promise program, of folks going from unhoused to being able to afford and be in their own home again, in their own apartment, is about 18 months. So that's a different cycle of what that looks like and how that's going. And so we continue to partner with Family Promise, but now we partner with them by bringing meals as a part of a church, a sort of a citywide church fleet that brings meals. And I will tell you that I got to deliver a meal just a couple of weeks ago during our last round, and I have never seen anybody as excited for Chili's Chicken Crispers as I get when I get Chili's Chicken Crispers. And so I was very grateful for that opportunity and that small connection point. But that does bring me sort of to the last little bit of what I want to make sure we get to, because our time is dwindling. Funny how that happens. But we, on the other side of COVID and the ways that that's changed, not just, that screeching halt of so many of the things that we do and getting back into the swing, back into the groove, for a lot of our nonprofits here in town, for a lot of our community partners, some of them have been able to go back to business as usual with a few modifications. Some of them have completely shifted the way that they're working. Some completely new opportunities have emerged in the ether of that, and all of that is good, because it means that there's opportunity for us to start not only being, as a whole entire church community and the outreach team, one of the things we really want to focus on is how we're creating volunteer opportunities for the entire congregation. And so we are going to be working on that. And one of the biggest obstacles we've had is, how do you help folks know where and how and what the plugging in is? So I've had some exciting conversations with the folks at Meals on Wheels about ways that we can start getting community members plugged in. We've talked about expanding efforts back at the food bank. There are some other things that, if I were here in September, I would give you a really big layout of all of that. But I'm here today, so those pieces are still in the works. But what I do want to share with you a little bit about is the ways that we're working to make it more accessible and easier for us to volunteer, both outside of the congregation and also inside of the congregation. And that is actually happening through technology. Kind of the same thing I said about HOAs. Love it or hate it, they're here. So we have a new website that we are going to have a launch for in the early weeks of August, so stay tuned for that. Very excited about it. It's been a lot of hard work to make sure that that website can be everything we want it to be, but one of the things I'm most excited about, and if we have a second, you're going to get a sneak peek of what that new website looks like. And I'll show you the online volunteer portal. So we'll jump over to that in a second so that you can see it. But the other piece is that something that would be really great if you could just access this all in one place from your phone: a volunteer sign up, an events calendar. Has anybody else here ever tried to find an events calendar for Harvard Avenue Christian Church and said to yourself, I genuinely don't know what's going on? That's me. It happens to me most of the time. So an events calendar. For those of us who are in life groups or even in Sunday school classes like the Challengers, which is a little bit larger than the life group chat function I'm about to talk to you about, but a great place for being able to share advertisements, resources, things that are going on, and a directory, all in one place. Wouldn't that be magical? Just one place. There's an app for that, and it's coming to you. It is called Church Center, and we are going to be launching that alongside with the website, and I actually am seeking out beta testers to get all the kinks out. So if you would like to be a beta tester, which the kinks are really just how do I explain to you all of the steps to what I'm about to show you, because secretly it's very easy, but it looks scary. So here we go. So you can see that a couple of folks have signed up to be in the directory. Pay no mind to the fact that most of them are staff members right now, but Delia signed up, so we appreciate that. So in the new directory, it actually speaks to the customizability of being able to, have you thought to yourself, I'm not sure if this name in my directory is actually the person I'm trying to talk to because this picture is approximately 10 to 20 years old. Has that happened to anybody? Just me? It lets you customize pictures from the ease of your phone so that you can share the photos that you have. We're going to have a launch day where we're doing a photo booth here at church to help you set up your photos. But it works a lot like Facebook in that regard, and you can view by household, or you can actually toggle over to view by individual name. So whatever suits your brain. So if you are like me and you see a spreadsheet and say, ah, there you go. But if you like your grids, your bars, perfect, sort by name. And then we have the calendar function, so you can see just a little glimpse of everything that's going on. Look, we're in Challenger's class right now. We're doing it. So everything that happens in the life of the calendar will be right there in the app. So these are just screenshots from my phone today. So that's how easy it is. You just toggle these buttons at the bottom. Also, you can set up for life groups and Sunday school classes. This is for Super Fun Life Group, as you can see. And at the top, there can be messages, so you can chat in there like a text message with anybody who's in your group. You can share events that are specific to your group that you want folks to sign up for. Resources for curriculum, or maybe you had a speaker who shared a great website with y'all. That's a place where you can drop in that website for people to go and check that out a little bit later if they'd like to. And then you can also look at who all of the members are who are in your group. And then here's the signups page and what that looks like. So here's your awesome example volunteer opportunity. You just click on that photo. That's one of our life groups serving at Iron Gate. And you'd click on that photo, and then you'd see that it gives you the detailed information that you might need there. You click register. Right there in the app, because it's your app, you don't have to put in any of your information. It's already put in for you. You just click next, and you're in business. So that's a little bit of an overview of what that looks like. Are there any questions about that? Yes, ma'am. Elaine. Yep. Yes, we have been talking about how we put together volunteer profiles, and that's going to actually be one of the things that's available in the sign-up link here, is there'll be that's not a requirement for anyone to volunteer, but it will hang out there. So right now you're seeing just one sign-up, but this could be populated with all sorts of sign-ups that we have going on. This would even be where you'd see your registration for the Thanksgiving dinner, those types of things. And so, yes, there will be one of those that you can fill out that inventory and it lets us know. So absolutely, that's on the radar. Yeah. And you're Kathy, aren't you? I called you your mom's name. Sorry about that. Any other questions? Yes. It will. How nice is that? Any other questions? So yes, it does feel overwhelming when you look at it. And I'm going to be really honest, I was a little overwhelmed when I initially looked at what it is that the undertaking is. Well, so the great news I have for you is that we're actually going to have a month of help desk here at church. So one of our life groups has volunteered to lead a help desk for anybody who needs a walkthrough on that. People are like, where's the sign up for that? Help desk, help desk. Also, this all starts from an email that you'll receive. I've also recorded a YouTube tutorial that walks you through what your screen looks like as you're going through the steps so that's all going to be out there. So for how many of you have the current directory app on your phone? Okay. I hope that it might be, they tell me that I think that downloading a directory app is like childbirth. It's very painful, but when it's done, you're so pleased with the outcome that you sort of forget the painful part. And I think that's a little bit with when we got the directory app a couple of years ago, that, we still have folks who call the office and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what I did, but my directory is magically gone. We know no technology is perfect, but I do think that the thing that's really great about this is it has all of those features that you love about the current directory app, and so many other things that we've heard people express that they need. And really, the learning curve on it is a curve, but it's not a tough one. Once you get the app downloaded, that is the hardest part. The rest really is you read the screen and you say, I'd love a calendar. That says calendar. Great. And it kind of takes you through, but we know that it's not going to be seamless for all of us, and so we're going to have lots of opportunities for helping with it. So Julia just did it. She just did it. I am going to have to send you an invite to the directory, but then you'll be able to look at it. I'll send it to you in just a minute, though, and then you can show everybody, look, it happened in real time. Any other questions about anything we've talked about today? Yes? Yes, there are. That's a great question, Larry. Thank you. That's actually why I just said to Julia, I was like, well, I'll have to send you an invite link. So nobody can access anything on the directory app unless they are in our database system and we have sent them the the invitation to access it. So it works just like the current app in that way. The thing that's really nice about this, though, and is different from the current directory app, is that if you have a change of address, a change of phone number, or anything like that, you can request to have that updated in that system. We then have to update it in this system and in this system. If you have anything that changes, like you move, you get a new phone number, you can go in and edit your own information here, and it changes it everywhere for us. And so that helps with some of that security piece of you get to decide time and place what information you are sharing. You have complete control over that. So one of the examples I give is when I initially downloaded the app, in the person view, Josie, that's my daughter, she's listed separately from me. Now, Josie is 4 and doesn't have a cell phone yet. Obviously, we're waiting till kindergarten. But, just kidding. But, for me, seeing my 4-year-old's name separate from mine, I was like, oh, I don't actually need anybody trying to contact Josie without contacting me first. I can remove what's available to be seen in Josie's profile. I can remove Josie so that she does not populate as her own person and only shows up in my household. So there's lots of security measures that are built into this that I think are really helpful. It also means that when people sign up on here, because your sign up is directly linked to the directory, we don't have that thing of, like right now when we use Sign Up Genius for things, sometimes someone signs up with their first name for me, and I say, oh good, a Robert. I only know one. And then I'm having to track down who this person is, who signed up. And so there's a lot about it that I think makes the security piece and being able to keep information safeguarded really accessible. Yes, Pam, and then Kim.
Okay, this may be a stupid question, but I ask.
No stupid questions.
Will this information be available on the website? So will there be links from the website that if we go on there and we see volunteer opportunities,
Yes, that's such a good question. So
hit the link and go and sign up that way? Do we have to do it on our phone?
you don't have to do it on your phone. So here's the serving opportunities page. Shout out Meredith Howard for sharing your likeness. So this is where you'll see serving opportunities start to populate. The one that I did as an example is not on here because I'll be honest with you, I did it this morning just to show you, and so I did not tag it appropriately to show up here yet. But what you see is that we have a serve in the church option. So if you're looking for, I don't know, donut sign up. Donuts. Sometimes we want people to sign up to help make coffee and share donuts. If you're looking for that, that would be an in the church opportunity because it only happens about 15 feet away. So you would see it, serving opportunity title, you'd click right there on that page. And in the world where this actually was populated correctly for you, which it will be in a couple of weeks, that's what I'm working on back end right now, is getting everything in there. It's the exact same list. Similar to, y'all are just really, you're getting some sneak peek treatment today. If you click on events, you'll see all of those same events that are in your calendar are populated here. And if you are looking for a specific type of event as you're going through, so let's say you wanted, you're looking for fitness classes. You can click fitness. It will eliminate everything in the field that isn't fitness, and then you're able to go and look at it. Yes. Oh, sure. Yes. That's a great question. We meet on the second Thursday of, I'm looking at Mark like, confirm, the second Thursday of every month at 6:30 p.m. So it's hidden on the calendar right now, but it's an open meeting if someone wanted to come by. What? You would contact David Brock, our chair, and say, hey, David, I'd like to come by. That's a good question. So.
I'm just trying to see, you see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's hard to find the links.
Yep.
And that, I would piggyback on Pam.
Mhm.
Honestly, one of my frustrations and disappointment
Mhm.
in the church is the lack of information about what's going on.
Yes.
Like the blood drive thing appeared, and I'm like, well, who's sponsoring this?
Sure.
I know this is a large church, and we can't know everything about everything, but there's just things that happen that we have no clue.
Definitely.
So I am encouraged, and you bring a tremendous gifts to this staff and this church, and we thank you for that. But I am hopeful that this and the website will let us in into what's going on
Absolutely. And that's a big part, and I appreciate you sharing that frustration, Kim. One, I know you're not alone in that, and I hope you hear me when I say it's not facetiousness on my part when I say I don't know what's going on the calendar sometimes. That's a genuine piece of, and you acknowledged it yourself of like, this is a big church, and it's a church that is growing all of the time, and so finding the balance and rhythm for what is giving enough information without folks saying, oh my gosh, why is every email that I get from church 19 pages long? Or why am I getting emails 7 times a day? Holy cannoli. And so that's part of why, one, we want the website to actually be usable. Yes. How do we share? Exactly. And so the website has been tooled to that mindset. The other piece of that is really helping us utilize the tools that are that we have opportunity to use so that we know where and how. And so a great example of that, 4 minutes. I have 4 minutes. Okay, so a great example of that is Pam's question of, how do I know who's a part of these teams? And that's information that gets shared. And then we just assume like, well, perfect. We archived that somewhere. Maybe everybody else did too. That's that piece of when we vote on leaders and you learn, here is the ministry leadership team. It's not necessarily creating the trails for folks to follow you. So that's top of mind for me, definitely, as a person who's new in the system and learning it. So thank you for that. Any last question? We'll say last question. Yes, Linda.
What is the closest church to Eden?
The closest church to Eden Village, the closest disciples church, or just church in general? You know what? That's a good question. I'll let you know. I know that it used to be Transformation Church, I think, but their building has moved since. So I'm not sure who's the closest to them, but that's a good question. Linda's question was really good, but I didn't know the answer, so we do have time for one more. Yes. Yes. There won't be similar to similar, thank you. Similar to the privacy question that Larry asked, that's one of those tricky places of where and how we share information. I don't know about that being housed on the website, but there is a way for us to house that list somewhere that you can access it in our email communications that go out. So I can talk with our communications team about that being something that's available. Because again, I think that's one of those things that we say, hooray, we voted on these leaders, let us celebrate. And if you'd like to remember those names, bookmark this email. And that doesn't need to be how that happens, so for sure. 2 minutes. All right. Yes, Mark. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, yes. So on the Week of Compassion, I just had listed there that we had $39,500 that was donated to Week of Compassion. That's an allocation that happens outside of our $100,000 that is budgeted, and so that is strictly the above and beyond generosity of our congregation. And that $39,500 that was given to Week of Compassion this year is the largest single contribution that our congregation has made to Week of Compassion, and does succinctly place us in the top 3 donors for Week of Compassion, which is not just something to pat ourselves on the back about, but really something to rejoice in the ways that we're doing life-changing work the whole world over with them. So thanks, everybody.